I'm David Charvet with Charvet Classic Cars. We're here in the showroom today with a 1937 Packard Super 8 Model 1501 5-passenger Victoria Coupe. That's a mouthful, but this is quite a car. It also is a car that can teach us all a lesson, which I'll tell you about after you take a closer look. You know, 1937 was the largest production year in the history of the Packard Motor Car Company. All of the cars they produced between 1899 and 1958. 37 was the biggest year. They produced a total of 123,044 cars. Now that doesn't sound like a lot of cars compared to GM or Ford or any of the other big three, but for Packard it was amazing for them to produce 123,000 cars. However, about 94% of those cars were the junior series, the 120s and the 115s. That's the small 8 and the 6-cylinder cars. The big cars, the Super 8s, accounted for only about 5,835 cars, and the 12s were even fewer, 1,340 12s. So of the Super 8s, that only accounted for about 4% of the total production that year of Packard. So they were quite rare then, and they're quite rare today. This particular car was sold on November the 30th, 1936 by Earl C. Anthony in Los Angeles. Now, Earl C. Anthony was the largest single stockholder in the Packard Motor Car Company. He was also the largest distributor for the Packard Motor Car Company. He distributed cars throughout the entire state of California and most of the west coast of the U.S. So he was quite a big player. And in those days, Earl C. Anthony had a deal with all of the Hollywood studios where if any of them needed an automobile for use in a movie, he would provide the car free of charge, a brand new Packard right out of the showroom. So he was the guy, Earl C. Anthony, and there are many great cars that were sold through Earl C. Anthony. This, I think, is one of them, too. This is, again, a real low production car. When you account for 5,835 Super 8s made in 1937, out of those, that 4% or so of total production, very few were this particular model. This is the 5-passenger Victoria Coupe. And I don't know why there were so few of them sold, because to me it's one of the most beautiful body styles. It's sleek, it'll hold 5 people, and it has 2 doors, so it has that coupe styling, but it has plenty of room. This car, I don't know much about the early history other than it has always been a West Coast car. It was acquired by a really good friend of mine, a very well-known collector here in the Pacific Northwest, probably 30 years ago. He finally got around to restoring it in 2005, 2006, and he did really a wonderful job on the car. The paint was completely stripped and done in Centennial Blue, which is a correct color for the car. It's shiny, it's lovely, it presents beautifully today. There's no dings, there's no chips. It's really beautiful. It also has a contrasting medium blue pinstripe, which also looks great. The chrome bumpers were redone, the grille was redone, all of the exterior chrome, except I believe the door handles are still original. And again, it was really well done. The entire interior of the car was reupholstered correctly in wool, in tan color. So the engine runs nicely. I don't know if the engine was rebuilt. The car itself shows a little over 77,000 miles, I believe. And so I don't know if he rebuilt the engine, but it does run very well. I know that the oil filter was removed, and you can certainly get them, but this car did not receive a lot of use after the work was done. When the car was restored, when it was finished, it was shown at the 2006 Forest Grove Concours d'Elegance, which is one of the top shows and one of the oldest shows on the West Coast next to Pebble Beach that still continues to this day. Forest Grove gave this car a class award, so it was deemed to be a really good restoration, and again, it still is a really good restoration. After that, the owner took the car, drove it a little bit, parked it in his garage with his other Packards, he covered it up, and there it sat. Now, this is where the lesson comes in of this story. We all get older. This car, again, it sat, and life moved on for this gentleman. He got older. He passed away a couple of years ago at age 93. The family contacted me wanting me to handle this car. It was covered up in the garage. I took the cover off, and I opened the door, and I found that moths had been in the car. Now, again, no one expects that to happen, but it did in this case. And we'll take a look, and I'll show you what's actually happened during the years that it sat. As you can see, the moths did enjoy the seats a little bit. They really enjoyed the carpeting. For some reason, I guess that Wilton wool carpeting, they really loved it. And the carpets were pretty well chewed up. The door panels, surprisingly, are really quite good, and I don't really see any major damage to the door panels. The back seat as well, it did get damaged, as you can see, and it's unfortunate. And besides moths, I believe there were several mice in this car as well. And you can see that with the headliner. The headliner did get chewed up quite a bit in the back. For some reason they stopped at the midpoint, and the front compartment is perfectly fine, but the back is what had some damage to the headliner. So, that being said, overall, and when we got the car here at the shop, I brought it in, of course, vacuumed, deodorized, and actually used an ozonator. And if you don't know what an ozonator is, it neutralizes any odors that are in the car. And the car was put with the ozonator inside and left for a day, really, and it cleaned out any residual odors, smells, and I say it's been sanitized, and it's a clean interior, although it does have, as you can see, the damage. So, what would you do with this car? Well, you certainly could restore it completely if you wanted to. I don't see there being any reason to, because the body is beautiful. And otherwise, I would say if you took the carpeting, replaced the headliner, you could certainly enjoy the car as it is. And if you wanted it to be a show car, yes, you would have to replace the covers on the seats, the covering on the seat front and back. But again, if you just wanted to enjoy it, it's really an enjoyable car. The instruments are all good. The dashboard is lovely. The only things that do not work, to my knowledge, is the fuel gauge and the speedometer. But other than that, all the gauges read. It has great oil pressure. It runs cool. I've gone through the radiator. We flushed the radiator, and it's clean. And I say it idles at about 175 degrees. So it really is a nice car in that regard. Also, we redid the brakes on the car because the brakes were locked up after having sat for a few years. So my friend Mike, my mechanic, he took the wheel cylinders off the car completely, took the master cylinder off. All of them were rebuilt with the correct kits and reassembled, and the car now stops nicely. The only thing we have not addressed is the handbrake, which seems to be stuck. It's stuck, obviously, not on, but it's stuck so you can drive the car. So other than that, I mean, mechanically the car seems to be in very good condition, and it drives out very well, as you'll see in a few minutes. Other than that, as I say, it's a fine example of a really rare body style. I have done some research and found this is one of only 5 of these cars that exist today. Now, there might be a couple of more squirreled away somewhere, but it was never a high production car. There were several hundred plus built, I think, and that's about it. So it is a rare car. And again, it's something that you don't see every day, but it has all of the elegance of the senior Packards. The grille, by the way, the thermostatic shutters do work. They're closed right now. When it warms up, they do open. So the mechanical components on the car work. I should mention the wood also. The doors hang very well. They close easily. There's no sag, and it is like, as they say, like a bank vault. So if you're looking for a really nice Packard, I say, that you can drive, you can enjoy, and again, you will probably certainly want to go through it mechanically more than we have, and bring it up to your own level of what you would want if you're going to seriously tour the car. But this is a great car to start with. The hard work has been done, the expensive work has been done, meaning the paint, the body, the chrome, all of those things have been done already. So it's a nice car, and now let's take it for a drive. Well, it's a nice fall day, and let's go for a drive. Car shifts very easily. Transmission works well. It's 3-speed on the floor. And of course, Packards have tremendous torque. I'll come to a stop up here, a rolling stop, and keep it in high gear. This car has good power. It goes right down the road with no problem. Super 8s are really wonderful cars, especially 1937, where they had everything dialed in and figured out. So if you have any questions about this Packard or any of the other cars we represent, feel free to call me at 503-309-7729 or find us online at charvetclassiccars.com. I'm David Charvet. Thanks for watching.